Hi Diane, how are you?
I'm not bad at all, thank you.
Thanks for jumping on. Obviously, we're doing a little bit of a mini series all around the Foundation of Hearts and the upcoming Foundation of Hearts elections. And obviously, you've took the very brave decision of stepping forward and putting
I
yourself
have,
up to
yeah.
be a candidate. So first and foremost, good on you. Takes takes a lot of bravery to put yourself out there. How have you found being sort of in the limelight so far? How have you found it?
I don't really feel like I've really been in the limelight, but it's been interesting. I think one of the first things is just seeing some of the opinions on kickback and on social media, and especially this whole concept of we need a Heartsman in there.
Aye.
And I'm like, well, is a Heartswoman okay? That's fine.
I know I've got a bit of a love-hate relationship with kickback. There's points where I absolutely love it and it's brilliant and it's a great vehicle for loads of things like this. And then I read some of the threads and I'm like, tear my
Uh-huh.
tear my
Uh-huh.
hair out. Still talking about fill the corners and kickback
Yeah.
every 2 minutes. So for the people that don't know and that need to know it, give us a little bit introduction to yourself. Let's get the proper Heartsman credentials on the table. Let's walk through that journey.
I think I can manage that. So yeah, hi, I'm Diane, as you know. So my heart. So this is my story to use a cliche. I was not brought up following football, so the whole Hearts fan since birth that doesn't apply to me. I'll be absolutely honest about that. I was brought up in a family of three girls, and football was just not something that was in our household at all. I was brought up out in Pennycook, moved into Edinburgh, which is something I wanted to do, quite frankly, the whole time I was in Pennycook, into town, and ended up settling in Polwarth. And when I was 25, a friend said, "Oh, you ever been to a football match? You live so close to Tynecastle. Hearts are playing Dundee at the weekend. You always get a lot of goals at a Hearts Dundee match. Fancy coming along?" So I thought, why not? I had thought about it. It's just down the road, never been. And it was the most extraordinary match in that Hearts were 2-0 up in the first 2 minutes. So I found myself surrounded by people going, "Oh, you can come again." And we went on to win 6-3. And I can actually remember when it went to 6-2 going, that's 50p a goal because it was £4 to get into the old school end back then. But the important thing was, for some reason, I was absolutely hooked. And it was actually the 11th of November. It was actually Remembrance Day on the Saturday, 11th of November, in 1989. So obviously quite a while ago. And then I started going to more and more and more matches. And then once it got to the stage of the stadium redevelopment was what tipped it for me to get a season ticket. When it reached the point that you couldn't just pitch up and stand with your mates behind the goal, if you wanted to go on any regular basis. So got myself a season ticket, and then realised that if you wanted to get Easter Road tickets, it was handy back then before loyalty points to get some shares. And I just got more and more and more emotionally invested in the club, um, obviously culminating in tears of joy in '98, um, and the subsequent cup wins and so on. And uh, so when it came to the point that the club was in trouble, I really felt that this was my family by this point. This was something that I really cared about. I loved the fact that by this point I'd obviously learned a lot about the history of the club and how it was firmly rooted in the local community in Gorgie and the good stuff that it did. And it was just inconceivable. Even when there was the whole talk of the ground share out at Miller Hill, if you remember that, the thought of not being in this community was dreadful. So the thought of the club disappearing altogether. So first of all, there was the Save Our Hearts, and then obviously along came the whole Foundation of Hearts piece, and I just had absolutely no hesitation in first of all buying the new shares. I kept my old shares, I didn't sell them to Romanov, so I've got both sets of shares. And I just signed that direct debit from day one, and it just felt absolutely the right thing to do to just feel part of Saving Hearts. Um, so then my whole sort of heart story took another twist. I was friendly with Davy Allen. Actually, for those we were speaking about kickback just there, but my first post on Kickback was in 1996, believe it or not, because I remember it was complaining about ticketing arrangements for the 96 Cup final. So nothing ever changes, does it? But back then it was a very small group was on Kickback, and through that I got to know Davy Allen. Obviously at that point he was in London, so he's Mr. London Hearts, for those who don't know. And now he's Mr. Hearts Museum. He's the manager and curator at the museum. And during the pandemic, they needed to keep the memorial garden open. And to do that, they needed volunteers to go and basically stand at the gate at the memorial garden of a weekend so that people could still go in and pay their respects. And Davy thought of me because I live relatively nearby and he knows I'm quite gregarious, I can chat to people and so on. And I care passionately about Hearts and know about Hearts history. So that was how I got involved with Hearts Heritage. And then as things opened back up again, I started doing shifts in the museum. And also where there's like a large stadium tour, I'll help out on stadium tours. So that has only it's just like my love for the club has gone exponential since then, and it's a two-way street of communication in the museum. I love telling people who don't know much about Hearts all about Hearts, because we do get a lot of tourists, a lot of visitors from abroad that come in. They just a lot of the time they're either looking for the shop or they just want to see the stadium. They don't know we've got a museum. So in fact, this Sunday, there was a guy from LA who just came to the museum saying, I was actually just wanting really to see the stadium, didn't know we had a museum. This is absolutely great. So telling him all about the club, actually took him up and showed him the stadium, took him back. And he went away with a real appreciation. And I love that. But I also love the other side of the coin, especially because I didn't go to my first Hearts match till 1989. So when you get some of the older guys that come in, so you'll get somebody that has moved away to Australia, for example, and they come back for the weekend to see their family, and they come in and they're telling you about their experiences, even back to the 56 Cup final or just through the 60s and God help them, the 70s, supporting Hearts, and just hearing all those stories. And I just feel so much, absolute part of the Hearts family through all of that. The other good thing that came out of it was that even though I was a shareholder, I'd never got around to joining the Shareholders Association. I knew it existed, I didn't know much about it. But Bill, that's the chair of the Shareholders Association, he also is one of the volunteers in the museum. So I was talking to him, and since then I discovered that there's pretty much a Hearts Heritage volunteers table at most of the shareholders' dues. So because I've made those connections now, I feel, because I didn't want to turn up Shareholder Association on my own. I'm a widow, I'm a single female, live on my own. I didn't want to rock up on my own. So the fact that I could go and join the Hearts Heritage Volunteers was fantastic. So I'm now active with the Shareholder Association as well. So how's that for Hearts credentials?
Well, all that was running through my head there was that scene in Monty Python where like, what have the Romans ever done for us? So
okay, apart from the memorial
so
garden, the museum, the stadium tours, the Shareholders Association. Oh, and yeah, I did something big Hearts this week. What's Diane ever done to prove she's a Hearts person?
What have you ever done? Yeah. The worst £4 you've ever spent. Yeah, lifetime of misery.
I know, talk about, there have been times I have wished I could just go back in time and as George Michael says, turn a different corner and we never would have met. And I wouldn't be putting up with things like some of the things that we're seeing the odd Saturdays just now, but I'm sure it will get better because you've got to go through those to appreciate the highs. Exactly. And I'm going to Copenhagen. I wouldn't be going to Copenhagen if I hadn't.
I've got two little girls, and that's what we talk about football. These are life experiences. This is what happens. You've got to learn how to deal with disappointment.
Oh, I didn't mention my European travelling credentials as well.
You better get that in because there'll be a friend popping up soon.
But yeah, I've been on quite a few. I can remember sitting in a kebab shop in Basel at 3 o'clock in the morning with a doner kebab in one hand and a bottle of Smirnoff Ice in the other, singing about Dennis Wyness, which is not a sentence that you would often use.
No, I think most people most people sitting would have still been sitting in absolute shock saying Robbie Nielsen scored.
But
Like,
exactly,
what?
exactly.
What's
Yeah.
happening here?
So
Is there
yeah,
so we've fallen down the
yeah,
rabbit hole? Robbie Nielsen is now a European goal
yeah.
scorer.
So
Like,
so
what's happening?
I was in Florence, which was one party. Was that even a party? And I
Yeah,
had to choose between Bruges and Copenhagen. I just couldn't get the holidays for work to do both. But I am going to Copenhagen. I've managed to negotiate to work between Christmas and New Year and take those days off earlier in
yeah.
December.
And at least Copenhagen are playing ball with tickets because I don't want to open the can of worms, but I'm on the beg for trying to get a Bruges ticket for my dad.
Oh,
I have
that
myself
yes,
one secured, but
that
uh,
that is a can of worms. Luckily,
that is a can of worms, I know.
I
So
I did have the
we'll
loyalty points
avoid
to
it.
get myself a Copenhagen ticket, so that's absolutely fine. I'm all good there.
We'll avoid that.
Yeah,
But it's funny that that's what I like about football is that although everybody has 100 different stories as to how they ended up here, they all centre around almost the same things. It's always the kind of the same stories. We're a football club built on stories that realistically should put you off supporting a football team. It's so like always the bridesmaid that's so close to glory and then no getting it. But it's like you said, it's the romance. Aye, but
it,
what
yeah, but I don't want to sound like an eternal optimist,
if?
but I always say that Hearts is the perfect sized club. Now, I could have chosen to support Rangers or Celtic or Barcelona or whoever. But when you support Hearts, you're supporting a club that's big enough that I've seen them lift the cup 3 times. I get the European trips, get some of the fun times, get to see exciting football, famous players, Craig Gordon. Um, but at the same time, small enough that it's completely feasible to have to be part of something like a shareholders association where you can just walk in and you can chat with the players, where you can go to the player of the year dinner is accessible to the
Yeah,
ordinary fan, where you can get to really feel part of the club, and you can get to stand to be a director, just an ordinary person like me can get to stand to be a director of the foundation of Hearts and influence and represent the ordinary fans, and that wouldn't be possible in any sort of big mainstream club, certainly not in England.
and I think
And
like
that's something I'm passionate about, is
yeah,
that
I
Hearts are the
always
right
use the
size.
I always use the Premier League down south as it's almost like the warning on our doorstep when you watch the big clubs there and they talk about famous atmospheres at Anfield and Old Trafford and all these places and you're looking at it is an absolute tourist league. I think there was a published article a few seasons back that said something like less than 5% of the people that have season tickets at Liverpool actually stay in any of the surrounding areas of
Mhm.
Liverpool. I think the club that was built on their community. That's why they're the size that they are and as successful as they are now so far removed from the ordinary fan that, like you said, it's just not accessible. You know, some of the ticket prices you see down there are absolutely crazy, and it's one of the things that is one of the best selling points about Hearts is you're right, you can walk in and get a ticket or a season ticket, maybe not just now because of the demand that
Not
we
just
have,
out yet.
but you could also quite easily, like you said, you can jump on the FOH board if you want to. You can volunteer. You can be part of anything that you want because the club is so deeply rooted in its community, which is great.
Big
So
enough to celebrate some success, but small enough to feel like a family. That's what Hearts is to me.
exactly, exactly. So we're obviously talking about the foundation of Hearts. So talk us through your pitch. What's your visions? What drew you to putting yourself forward this year?
That is a very interesting question, one that I've asked myself a while back. But it's something. First up, it's something I've been thinking about for a while since I discovered the structure and the fact that anybody can stand and it's a 3-year term. And so I started thinking about it because I've got the business credentials. I am in a fairly senior role at work. My job title is Associate Director of Finance Capacity Management. I work globally. I've got qualifications. I've got a professional diploma in business management. I've got a postgrad diploma in technology management. And I'm very used to communicating at a senior level. I'm used to being in meetings that are delivering, so creative problem solving and driving outcomes. I'm quite known as being quite straight talking and somebody that gets things done. So I feel I've got the credentials and the personality and knowledge to do it. So I thought, well, why not? Why not put myself forward? And I thought about it last year, but of course, last year was a restricted nomination because there was a requirement to have somebody with not just the financial nous that I've got, but an actual accounting qualification, which I don't. And also there was a legal requirement. There was somebody had to be legally qualified, and that's completely reasonable that we need those on the board.
Yep.
But when I saw that this time round it was opened up to anybody, so I thought I'm going to go for that. Obviously, at that point, I had no idea who else would be standing. And to be honest, my initial reaction when I saw the number of people standing, I thought that's fantastic. That is so good for the Foundation of Hearts. And there's a real mixture in there. So we've got quite a few that are currently working with Foundation of Hearts. But I think that's what makes me potentially a little bit different in that while I've got my contacts and I volunteer with Arts Heritage and so on, I would be coming in completely from left field and with no preconceived ideas. I would come in with passion and fresh ideas and creativity coming into the role. That is not to say that my first day in the role, I would be looking to make sweeping changes, because I don't think that's the right way to do anything as the new kid on the block in any situation. I would want to take time to get to know the other directors, what their strengths are, their ways of working, how the whole sort of the conduits, how they see themselves representing that fan base, how that 7 or 8 individuals represent the 8,500, and then how they then communicate through the 2 that then sit on the actual board. And just find out about how the whole thing works, and then start to bring the Diane way of thinking to it. And okay, where is there room for improvement, and what should we be doing to kind of turn Foundation of Hearts around a bit, because I think it does need turned around at the moment.
Yep. Do you have a sort of a priority list in your head where you think actually, like, if you were to go it now, I know what you've said there's completely and utterly fair and fine and makes sense, but do you have a sort of idea in your head where you're hoping to make a big impact?
Yeah, of course I have. I think that every single candidate has spoken about communication, and that communication is something that desperately needs improved. And I always like boiling things down to really quite simple concepts. And for me, it boils down to what happens to my money? Why am I contributing this money, and what difference is it making to Hearts? And I think we just don't have that clarity at the moment. And I think that would go a long way, not only to improve relations with the current pledging fan base, but also to be a stepping stone for attracting new and bringing back folk who used to contribute and have left. So what I'm talking about is, if you look at the mission statement of not the mission statement, but at the point where there was a Foundation of Hearts Day recently, and there is a move for what they're calling faraway fans to try and get people who live overseas to sign up. And the same paragraphs are used in what Jerry Mallon has come out as a statement for both of those initiatives, both Foundation of Hearts Day and the Faraway Fans. And it talks about how the money means that Hearts is financially stable, means we can attract players that will give us success on the pitch. It then goes on to talk about, but it's not just about that, it's about local community initiatives, about investing in the stadium, in the youth development, and also supporting big Hearts and projects like the Maroon Mile. But there's no clarity about, okay, so out of because Foundation of Hearts raised 1.46 million last year, I believe, is in the statement of accounts that came out. Where's the pie chart? What happens to that money? Or is it as simple as we made 1.2 million operating loss this year? Would it have been 2.6 million loss if it wasn't for Foundation of Hearts?
Yep.
Or has there been things that have been done that we can absolutely say we would not have done if it hadn't have been for that Foundation of Hearts money? Whether it's simple things like, I know the initiative putting the screens up in the stadium was through a partnership with a I think it's called the football company, or is it investment in youth, in the academy, and equipment? I don't know, and I don't know where my money goes. And I think that if we can sort that, then we can go a long way to improving the mindset of the existing pledgers, but also, hey guys, I mean, I love what has been happening with the signs up around the stadium with the QR code on them, the be an owner, make a difference, pledge for life, these great snappy, but ultimately, whenever you're in a situation that you're trying to sell anything, you've told me that you're into training, so you know what a whiffin is, the what's in it for me. When you're trying to engage anybody and you're trying to get them enthusiastic about anything, well, why should a what's in it for me? Now, obviously, we've got the fan rewards, which is obviously mostly tokens, the plot ceremony and the 56 club and the 98 club and so on. And that's all great. That makes you feel part of it, and it's fabulous. But really, there's not much material benefit. And for that reasons, there can't be a material benefit to being a Foundation of Hearts subscriber, because if there is, then the donations would attract that and everything would drop by 20%. So what we need to do is make sure that it's an emotional, a heartfelt benefit, that you feel that you are an owner. We do all those messages, but ultimately, what difference is that Foundation of Hearts money making?
Yeah,
I hope that makes some kind of sense.
No, it makes perfect sense. You may touch on something there that's been something that I've thought about for a long time, and I've been a part of helping or trying to help strategize some stuff towards the next generation of people, because what you just described there, all of the be an owner, the plot ceremonies, the certificate stuff, that is, when I think of that stuff, I think of my dad's generation. I think of him being buzzing at having a certificate to say that he helped save the club and stuff. But actually, when I work closely with the ultras, for example, and I think if I walked into Lucky's or wherever it may be on a Saturday and said to a 20-year-old, "Oh, did you get a certificate to say that you owned Hearts?" I think they'd look at me like I was some sort of alien. He'd be like, "What? I'm not going to walk about and I'm not telling anybody that I'm an owner of a football club." So do you see, is that an avenue where the Foundation of Hearts has to get a bit better in terms of how do they engage with the next people coming through?
I think it's not just about engaging with the next people coming through, and I think you've just hit on something as well that I was going to mention, which the difference between the first wave of Foundation of Hearts, where you helped save the club, that has now happened. So August 2021, that was it, handover. We've got fan ownership, and there's this mindset that a lot of people, I think, then thought job done, and the shift to this Pledge for Life message means that we need to be targeting differently and having a message that, as you say, appeals to the ultras and so on. There's one group that now there's the Faraway Fans Initiative, but I think we could cast the net wider than that, and that is just anybody who would be a season ticket holder if it made sense for them to be. I know that's not a very snappy title, but so that's not just the people that are abroad, but people that just live too far away in the UK, people that work on Saturday, people that it makes no financial sense, but they still would like to feel part of a club. I don't know about you, but when anybody asks me if I support a football team, and I think especially as a woman, it can be seen as something that you'll just say, "Oh yeah, I'm a Hearts supporter," when what you mean is it's the nearest team, and I may be drinking the diggers occasionally, and I can probably not name a single player. So I always say I'm a season ticket holder at Hearts, just to show that I put my money where my mouth is. I'm a member. I'm a member of that Hearts family. And if it doesn't make sense for you to have a season ticket for geographic reasons or whatever, surely you want to be buying into being Foundation of Hearts. Instead, just put that, it's only £120 a year. It's only, if you put in the tenner a month, it's a lot less than a season ticket. So I think that's a market we could be targeting.
Yeah, I think
And I,
that's a fair
and I
point,
think,
because I
and I
think you're
think
right too. See what you said there as well, is we've actually, there's a very good point, because there are two legacy things that go on at Hearts that are one of those things that we have to shift the mindset, because there's the guys that still have legacy season tickets because it's their donation to the club. They can't go.
yes,
So you
exactly.
watch on a match day that says it's sold out, and you look
There's
around and you're
always
like,
empty seats.
how is there so many empty seats? But it's people that's their connection to the club, is to keep buying. And like you said, if we can get that group of people to say, we love that you want to feel part of the club, let's move you to the foundation where you can
Yep,
still pledge, you can still be a part of it. We'll send you certificates, we'll send you your stuff. We need
exactly.
bums on seats over here. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's a good
that is
point.
absolutely one of the things that I've thought about that we could be targeting. And we really need to look at sort of three groups. There's the existing pledgers. Can we get a bit more money out of them? Because ultimately, when you read the mission statement, it is how much money can we get out? Because that's what it's all about. It's about making the club financially stable and successful, and that takes money. So, can we get more money out of existing pledgers? Can we get the ones that stopped pledging because it's gone down? Year before last, it was 1.6 million, it's down to 1.46. So the vision statement that says we want to be raising 2 million a year is getting further away, not nearer. So the people that have left, why have they left? Can we entice them back? So there must be a database of who used to pledge and has stopped, and is anything happening with that? And then the third group is the people that have never pledged, and that's obviously the biggest group. Where are they out of the 250,000 that come out to watch an open top bus parade?
Yeah.
And that's just the ones in Edinburgh.
Yeah.
And where's all of the overseas? And as you say, the people the ones that continue to buy a season ticket just to feel that connection with the club. Can we get them emotionally and financially invested in another way?
Yeah. I agree. I think they're very good. They're very good points. What about, would the success look for you? If say you are successful, get enroll, what does, if in 3 years' time you sit back, and what would give you a wee pat in the back? What would you be patting yourself in the back for if you managed to achieve it?
That's a very good question, because obviously it's a team. The board is a board. It's not individuals. We all bring our own skills. Obviously, I would like to be part of a board that success has to be turning around that reduction in the pledge. I think that is worrying. Something's clearly not right at the moment. So if we can start to reverse that, and we're looking at a trend that we're getting towards that target of 2 million a year, or even just increasing the number of pledgers, that would be success. Personally, and this is going to sound like so trivial compared to the really big things that we've been speaking about, but one thing I've noticed, and I don't want to knock any individual group with this, I don't think it's anybody's fault. It's just something that we're not great at, and that is we've got siloed thinking, where Hearts Heritage, for example, and Foundation of Hearts really don't talk to each other. And I've seen myself standing in the museum, and by the way, footfall in the museum is not great. I would encourage anybody listening to this, if you haven't been to the Hearts Museum, come along. It's great, and we love talking to you. Generally, it's tourists that come in, and folk that live around here in the Hearts fans don't. So anyway, I'll be standing in the museum, and I might not have seen a soul in 2 hours. And then I realised that next door in the Gorgie suite, there's 30 people having their plot ceremony. And no, we haven't asked Hearts Heritage if is there a plot ceremony this weekend that we could open up the museum and get them coming through. And Hearts Heritage haven't let us know. But oh, by the way, Hearts Heritage, sorry, Foundation of Hearts haven't let us know that there's a plot ceremony on. So just that is so obvious that the different groups should be talking to each other. Just this week is the first time I've seen something like this. On Monday this week, with it being Remembrance Day, not Remembrance Sunday, but Monday was the 11th. And Monday happens to be when Big Hearts have their team after school club. It's a multicultural initiative to integrate kids. So they contacted Leanne Parry, who's the overall head of Hearts Heritage, and said, got this idea, could somebody come along to our after school club and just explain remembrance in the context of Hearts Great War, show them the Memorial Garden, show them the statue, take them to the museum. So I finished my day job, popped down for about 4:20, and spent 45 minutes with these kids, just telling them all about the history of the Great War, showing them the plaques, the 7 players in the Memorial Garden, stuff like that. And that was a brilliant collaboration between Big Hearts and Hearts Heritage. And it would be really nice to see just a bit more of that. So if I was sitting in 3 years' time as a director, and I can say that we've really, really seen a lot of leverage. Can I say leverage synergies at this time? I don't think I want to, but you know what I mean. Without having to speak, just the fact that these groups could really be sort of cross-fertilizing and supporting each other. That, you know, Hearts Heritage volunteers could be helping the plot ceremonies and so on.
But I think
so that's a personal goal for me.
No, but I think it's one that I think most people will resonate with, that because it goes through back to what you said at the very start around communication, and, you know, communication from everybody that's had a pitch has been the same thing about, you know, a bit more clarity as to where the money goes and what's it used for, but also that stuff there about we have so many unbelievably good initiatives and things that go on around the club on a day-to-day basis that unless you're there, ask, or you're poking about, you won't know. And I think we have such a my background in life is retail. We have a captive audience every 2 weeks of 18,000 people. They should leave every match day thinking that was a Foundation of Hearts Day. Every day it should be rammed down the throat around what's happening at the Heritage, what's happening with the Maroon Mile, what's happening with Big Hearts, what's the next big milestone, where's the next big date. And I think that one of the byproducts of where we've come from in terms of safeguarding the club, safeguarding the finances, is that we can still be quite heads down. And I think that that's what everybody's so focused on. We have to safeguard what we're doing, that a wee bit of heads up, a bit of communication, a bit of dialogue between each section helps bring to life what you've just described.
Absolutely. And Foundation of Hearts Day, what a shame this year it landed on a day that we went 1-0 down to Dundee United. So there wasn't exactly a feel-good factor about that day. I remember thinking, oh, you know, this is not a day when people are going to be walking out thinking, yay, I'm going to handle some money. So
the most Hearts
I
thing ever, isn't it?
Absolutely. I do obviously recognise that it's because it's a difficult time just now on the pitch, it makes it difficult to create that positive mood off the pitch as well. But we could be doing so much better. And there's so many communication channels open to us now. I mean, there were I think they were bi-monthly, the emails that came out from Jerry Mallon. And there's some Instagram stuff goes on, but we need to be drip feeding. And it's just like you were saying earlier about what motivates somebody my age, I'm 60, what motivates what motivates one of the young laddies in the ultras is completely different. How they want to be communicated with is completely different as well. Yep. So we need to do that. I mean, I looked at the Foundation of Hearts website, and do you know how many news stories have been published on the Foundation of Hearts website since the last AGM?
I try to avoid it because it gives me a headache.
6.
Aye, that's it.
And one of those is the list of his candidates standing for election. So, so it's not great. It's not great, and I think I think this is where some new blood potentially coming in might just, you know, have some fresh ideas and noise things up a bit.
Well, I appreciate the time, Diane. It's been lovely to talk to you. We'll leave all the links and descriptions in the bio for people that have yet to cast a vote or didn't know they had a vote that they can cast. Make sure
absolutely
that you use it.
Yeah, and if there's one message, yes, people, even if you don't want to vote for me, use that vote, because otherwise you can't complain if things aren't going your way. You can have your say about who represents the Foundation of Hearts pledgers on that board. So if you've got that email with your code to vote, go back to that email and just cast your vote right now. And if it happens to be for me, that would be even better.
Well, here, you're right. Well, again, thank you so much for speaking to us. Good luck with whatever happens. Hopefully it's not the first or the last time that we get some opportunity to
I
talk. It
hope
sounds
that
like you've got loads of stories we could share. So we'll get you on the actual podcast for a
we could do
chin
a
wag one
podcast
day.
just about the museum some point.
Well, let's do it. Let's get it
Right,
done.
that's a
Right.
date. Right.
Right. Thank
Okay.
you so much, Diane. Cheers.
Okay, thanks. Bye.